Let's see. $512 gigabytes. That's the biggest SD card that I own. Alright, I can't open this. Thank you PMY for sending me those products. It is awesome. I'm really happy to have a collaboration with you guys. So thank you. So, how do you shoot cinematic B-roll in boring places? That is exactly what I'm gonna show you in this video. But before we shoot the B-roll, I'm just gonna say thank you so much for the immense support that you guys give me through this channel. And we are now up to 1,600 subscribers. That's completely insane. You guys, you rock. Let's go and shoot that B-roll. So this place is one of the most boring places to shoot a B-roll that I could think of. And that is exactly why we're gonna shoot some cinematic B-roll in here. Everything that you just saw was shot completely handheld using the Sony a7R III, not the Sony a7 III. I'm just using this for demonstration because I'm recording this on the Sony a7R III, but with the Zeiss Batis 85mm f1.8. And when you're shooting B-roll, one thing that will help you to get that cinematic look is to have a lens with a shallow depth of field. And the 85mm also gives you that compressed look, so it feels really cinematic, which is really good. But the most important thing when you're shooting the B-roll is not what kind of lens you have or what kind of camera you have. The most important thing is the camera movement that you do to get that cinematic and dynamic look to your footage. One thing that you want to remember is always keep your camera as steady as possible and always try to keep the horizon in a straight line, because that will also help your footage to look better. There's a couple of techniques that I use always when I'm shooting my B-roll, and one of them is always trying to find a subject that you can like have in the foreground and then pan out from. And by doing that, it will give you the feeling that the camera is moving way more than it actually is, because the camera is not moving as much as the viewer might think, because you're only doing this, but since you're using the foreground, it feels like the foreground is moving away from the camera and the camera is panning out. So using the foreground to your advantage when you're shooting your B-roll is a really good technique that you can bring with you wherever you are. Another thing that is really important is trying to find the details that is going to be in your shot. For example, I use that electrical like cabinet and the scale that is standing behind me to shoot some details of, because those things are feeling kind of industrial and fits in the whole B-roll sequence that we just did. And using manual focus on your lens will actually help you to get that focus pull. And when you want to do that, you want to put your thumb on the focus ring and then move your focus ring like that. Using those two techniques will get your B-roll to look really cinematic when you're shooting it. Another thing that you can do to make your B-roll look really cool is using those like swoosh transitions that you see in every single B-roll out there, and that I used in this B-roll. If you're gonna do one of those, then you want to make sure that you have your camera like this, and then you just pan and then move to the way that you're panning, because you can't pan to one way and then move the other when you are swooshing, if you get my point. So if your subject is moving to the left, then you're gonna point your camera at your subject and then move and then swoosh to the left. And here comes the tricky part, because if you wanna like have a smooth transition, then you're gonna think full circle, all right? So if you're swooshing out that way, then you wanna turn one full circle and then swoosh back in this way. But sometimes it's hard to find the focus on your subject, so then you want to have to reverse the clip. But then you can do like this because that's going to be wrong when you reverse it. So what you want to do then, if you're swiping to the left and you want to reverse the clip, then you want to swipe out to the right at the end of the clip. So first is going to be like that, and then the second is going to be like that, because when you reverse the second clip, it's going to be going the right way. Hope you get my point. You also want to make sure that your white balance and your exposure is correct, because those are two things that will make or break your footage. If you have the wrong white balance, then your footage is going to look way too yellow or way too blue, and you want to find a sweet spot that is fitting your footage that you want to show off. And having the right exposure is also a really good thing, and setting the right exposure in camera, even though you get some noise, is much better than trying to adjust the exposure when you get into the editing process. So always keep in mind to have those things, and do not, I repeat, do not shoot on auto ISO when you're shooting B-roll, because the lighting is going to be different depending on how you move your camera. So always set a fixed ISO when you're shooting your B-roll. And the same goes for the white balance. Always use a fixed white balance and a fixed ISO. So, using those things in your videos when you're shooting your B-roll is going to help you to shoot cinematic B-roll no matter where you are. And thing is, like, B-roll is probably the most easy thing to shoot for vlogs. I think it's much harder to talk to the camera than shooting the B-roll. And it's gonna take some practice to get all those things right, like how to swipe and how to like hold the camera and setting the white balance and exposure, because those things are not as easy as you might think. But when you get everything under control, then you're gonna create some really, really good B-roll. So I really hope that you can take all these things and just smoosh them together to get your knowledge and B-roll to take that next level step. So I really hope that you learned something from this video, and if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because that'd be appreciated. And I also want to say that I have started a Patreon account. If you want to support this channel and what I do, my videos and this YouTube channel, then you can find the link in the description below if you want to do that. If not, it's fine. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate everything. Until next time, take care. Shooting B-roll is the absolute easiest thing that you can do. I think it's so much harder speaking to you guys through the camera. And shooting B-roll is like standing behind the camera, so that's much easier, you know? Yeah, it's a weird thing. When you learn how to shoot B-roll, then it's gonna be super simple for you. Hopefully this video did help. Anyway, see ya.